All right, and we're back again with another model assembly video. And today, we're going to be assembling the Apothicary Abominations from the Monsters of Drakkenheim Kickstarter. Now, I did an unboxing video with these, and one thing I actually noticed previously, well, you know what, actually, I'll go into that in a little bit. But we're also going to do a few little things. I'm still experimenting with my camera layout. I currently have a big pole right here that I kind of have to work around. But ideally, this way your camera is straight, it's easily in focus, and you see exactly what I see. But this time, we're actually also going to learn a little bit about each monster as we assemble them. I've already marked all the pages for all these particular ones, so I don't have to go digging through the index. I noticed with this particular set, all of them are around page 200. So, we're going to go in order of the book, which would be our first creature, the Chemstrel, and then right after that, we're going to go with the Disembodied Psyche. But we'll mostly leave their pages there, and we'll read through it as we go. We do need our super glue, brand new bottle of Gorilla Glue, our cutters, and other model assembly tools, mostly sanding files, a knife. Ooh, I don't know why I have a thing of thread lock in there. Probably don't need that. I'll probably move this off camera later, but we'll see. But let's get to assembly. Now, as I was saying before, just a moment ago, when I originally opened up this set and I was looking through some of the models, I actually noticed that some of the models were actually broken. Like, for example, this big guy, the Ripper, his saw should not have these two little dimples on it. They should still be attached to this arm. Now, luckily, because we have super glue, we can just reattach these things no problem. It's not a big deal. But I also accidentally... Oh, but this one's probably the worst break. And it's actually, I think, on our first creature. Yeah, you see that? So whatever this particular part was, basically just snapped completely in half. Now, luckily, once we glue this in place... Oops, sorry, I'm trying to... We should be able to cover up that seam where the break happened. But we'll just consider it an extra step in assembly. Okay. So, anyway, we're going to assemble that, and we're going to have our instructions open. And it looks like Chemstrel is just supposed to just snap onto the base. So, assembly is that simple. Okay. So, let's actually read a little bit about our Chemstrel while we get some of our other stuff here. I'm just going to move those guys out of the way. So, let's look at our first monster here. The Chemstrel. This massive, undiluting chemical ooze shimmers with hues of blue, green, pink, and purple. Its large and amorphous form throbs and wobbles as it alters the composition it alters its composition constantly to adapt to its surrounding environment. Everything the blob touches dissolves quickly and within its form. The distinct smell of bile and stomach acid surround it. I think we all basically know what this sounds like. This basically sounds like a gelatinous cube, or another type of ooze. One of the chemist's ultimate creations, the Chemstrel is a perfect balance of sentient component capable of altering its physiology to adapt to its surrounding threats. This horrific ooze has the ability to stick to any surface, and is even able to propel itself into the air and fly. That's terrifying. It is impervious to nearly all forms of elemental attacks. Much like a chameleon changing its color in order to blend in with its surroundings, the Chemstrel changes itself on a cellular level to adapt to the environmental changes of environmental threats, gaining properties to better combat predators. Even with its inert resilience, the Chemstrel is unable to adapt to cold or dealing with intense sound. Okay, so it sounds like it may take extra damage from cold and thunder? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we'll go over the stats in a little bit. But let's actually get our main guy fixed. Now, I hope I don't have to actually puncture this. Okay, good. No, I don't have to. So ideally, we should only need a small drop here to fix this. Okay. Now we're just going to hold that together until the glue cures. All right, so we're just going to put that down. I'm going to give it a minute so the glue can stick. Just going to make sure our glue doesn't dry on us. And I need to actually get my knife, because I noticed that there's a little thing here on the base that we have to nick off. And we'll probably need one of our sanders. I always like to keep these little bags just in case for stuff. Actually, one thing I actually noticed about this camera, because my face is literally almost right below where the camera actually is. So if I move this in closer for me to see, you generally can see it better as well, which actually makes this a little easier. I just need to make sure I don't cut myself on this. Okay. Okay, so that was just a simple little nick. All right, let's look a little bit more at our creature here. So, some properties of this particular creature. Character's proficient in medicine, gain advantage on wisdom, insight, or intelligence investigations to study the creature, or to study the chemstral. Learning the following basic results. 15 plus, you know its resistances and immunities. On a 20 or plus, you know its elemental reaction trait. And a 25 or plus, you know its weakness to cold. Basically, if you really think about it, everything has a weakness to cold. The closer you get to absolute zero, the less energy that can move. And once things hit absolute zero, everything freezes. So, some combat traits. The chemstral attempts to engulf as many victims as it can. It cares little about taking elemental damage, and it only thinks to retreat if it is constantly or is continuously taking cold damage. You can harvest components. This was something I maybe didn't talk too much about in the book originally. This thing has a whole system about creating creating new weapons and items and harvesting monsters. So if you like your Monster Hunter, then there's definitely some stuff here. So here you can easily get an animus, an ooze. You can collect fluids such as contaminated ichor, goopy ooze, and elemental fluids. And organs, you can collect some glands. Let's actually look after some of its stat block. Large ooze, 15 AC, 168 health. That's a lot. Oh, okay, it's a challenge rating 12. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. 2 initiative, kind of slow. Speed 30, climb 30, fly 30. 18 strength, 7 dex, 20 con, 1 intelligence, 6 wisdom, 2 charisma. Okay, so very vulnerable to basically any type of spell and dexterity-based moves. However, resistances. It is resistant to acid, fire, force, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant. It is immune to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, blinding, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, and prone. So it would probably be better just to say what it is not resistant or immune to. It has 20 feet or 60 feet blind sense, 8 passive perception. It knows no languages, and again, it's a challenge rating of 12. Okay. Oh, we gotta take off a little bit of that, so let's do that. Okay, so let me just grab one of my sanders. Yeah, and that just easily snaps onto the base just like that. Yeah, so very, very simple model to fix. Other than the break there in the stem, nothing fancy to it, but we'll just glue that in there really quick. And then we'll read the rest of the traits, and then we'll move on to our next creature. Just a little bit of glue there. Okay, so we're just going to put that down. The sheer weight of the top, which probably is what caused the break. The fact that it's really, really top heavy. I'm just going to press on that to make sure it really sticks to that base. Okay. All right, so let's look up some more traits. My apologies if I cough or you hear me snore. I'm battling a cold right now. So some traits. It has an amorphous form. You can squeeze through spaces as narrow as an inch without squeezing. It is cold vulnerability. If a chemistral takes cold damage, it becomes frozen, or a DC 15. Again, there was also new conditions in this book as well. While it is in the frozen condition, it loses its immunities to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and its resistances to force damage, and gains the vulnerability to thunder damage. In addition to normal means, a frozen condition ends if the chemistral takes 20 points of force, piercing, thunder, or slashing damage. Now, here's its main feature, elemental reactions. If the chemistral takes acid, fire, lightning, poison, or necrotic damage, it takes on the elemental property of which changes the damage type of the chemistral's spray and engulf actions to match the damage type. In addition, it causes the additional effect when it is hits with its chemical spray attack. If it is imbued with acid, on a hit, the target gains the burning condition. If fire, it also gains the burning condition. Lightning, the target becomes shocked and until the end of its next turn. If it is infused with poison, the target has a poison condition until the end of the turn, and if it's necrotic, the chemistral regains hit points equal to necrotic damage dealt. Reminds you of old Final Fantasy games where if you hit the fire enemy with a fire attack, you heal it, not damage it. Sure, there's a few other games, but that's the first one that comes to mind. So regeneration, the chemistral regains 25 hit points at the start of its turn. You don't even have to hit it with necrotic, it just heals. If the chemistral takes cold or thunder damage, this trait does not function at the start of its next turn. Chemistral dies only if it starts its turn with 0 hit points and doesn't regenerate. Oh man, this thing is going to be a mortal pain in the butt to kill. It's basically, especially like if you have somebody who... Okay, if I was a DM, I would not throw this at my characters unless they had some form of cold damage. Even if it's just a cantrip. Something. If for some reason nobody on the team's got cold damage, this would be kind of cruel to throw at them. Alright, anyway. It has sonic neutralization. When the Kestrel takes thunder damage, it loses any active benefit from its elemental reaction trait. Okay, so you could disable that by hitting it with thunder. Okay, that's good. What type of attacks? It can make 2 chemical spray attacks, and it can use engulf. Chem spray is melee or ranged, +9, reach 5, range 30 to 120, dealing 35 or 10d6 acid damage. That's a lot. Which actually, when you're looking at this kind of level, it's maybe not that high, but that's still a lot. Engulf. The Chemstral moves up to its speed. When it is doing so, it can enter large or smaller creatures to spaces. Whenever the Chemstral enters a creature's space, the creature is subjected to the following effects. Dexterity save, DC, 17. On a success, the creature chooses to be pushed 5 feet back or to the side of the Chemstral. A creature that chooses not to be pushed suffers the consequences of failing a saving throw. Failure. The Chemstral enters the creature's space, and the creature takes 35 or 10d6 acid damage and is engulfed. The engulfed creature cannot breathe. It has the restrained condition and takes 35 acid damage at the start of each of the Chemstral's turn. The engulfed creature has total cover from effects outside of the Chemstral. When the Chemstral moves, the engulfed creature moves with it. The Chemstral can hold 1 large creature or up to 4 medium creatures or smaller creatures inside of it at a time. An engulfed creature can take an action to escape with a successful DC 15 strength check, entering the space of its choice within 5 feet of entering the ooze. Yikes. That's a lot. So this little guy, well, he's not really that little, will basically just bum rush you down the field, try to consume everyone in its path, and then just ideally let the acid damage. And if it's just eating you, it doesn't care if somebody else tries to hit it. As long as it's not taking cold damage, it's not going to stop. Well, there's our main model. There's not a lot of details to it other than the gloop. So if you painted this a blue, a green, yeah, it's basically just another version of a gelatinous cube, but with a cool elemental twist. So that's our first creature. So we're just going to move this guy off screen. We're going to move to our next creature, the Disembodied Psyche. Now this is a challenge rating 10. This reminds me of the Mind Flare pet things. I cannot remember what they are called off the top of my head. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So not you. Not you. Actually, no, never mind. It is you. Oh yeah, that's another one that had a small break. It has this blade that's supposed to be sticking out, I think. Or the blade. No, actually, I think the blade actually goes on this other one. So it looks like a brain with like a bunch of lightning bolts sticking out of it. Got an arm, which we'll have to take off this little chunk off the elbow. Oh, here we go. Okay. There is a tiny little break here, but it looks like for something pretty tiny. We can reattach that. There we go. Okay. Sorry if I just moved that off camera. I'm just trying to get this little broken piece to reattach. I got a very, very tiny, tiny drop of glue on it. I just want that to take. Okay, so I'm just going to put that aside. We're going to let that dry for a moment. We're going to read some of our disembodied psyche. Okay. This revolting creature resembles a large floating brain still attached to a nervous system. The abomination hovers slowly within a field of psychic energy. The loose spandrels threads that dangle down from its form like arms, or form an arm-like appendage. Its high-pitched thumbing emanates from the cracking and sparking sparks within a lament psychic power. So it's generating like electricity around the brain. One of the most harrowing procedures an alienist can perform on their victim is the result of the disembodied psychic. The alienist, looking for a permanent control of the mind of their victim, may opt to remove the brain altogether, killing the patient and resurrecting the mind in its own sentient entity. Somewhere within the process, the brain loses its sense of self, and its connection has had to its former body is held, becoming an organism made entirely of electrical synapses and controlled thoughts. The disembodied psychic is then subjected to several experiments to heighten its fortitude and mental capacities, giving the creature forms of telepathy and telekinesis. The now undead form of this controlled consciousness can be unleashed upon the foes of the alienist and even take over the bodies of other victims, putting them into a controlled, obedient state for the alienist to perform even more mental experiments on, or to use as a puppet against their enemies. Oh, so yeah, this definitely has like Mind Flayer vibes to it. It kind of wants to take or either hypnotize or take over somebody, and then have its teammate, the alienist, come up and kill him or do whatever it wants to him. So yeah, that's another scary thing to do. All right, so we'll just clip off this little thingy here. Okay, just a tiny little clip, and that's fine. And we got to clip off these two things on the bottom of what it looks like its feet. And then just a little bit of sanding on the bottom just to smooth it out. There we go. So there's a small arm that connects into there. And then the head. I think there's a tiny little nub we might need to sand off of the head here. Yep. Okay, so we'll tiny drop of glue inside this arm piece. Just gonna see if I can dab off some of this extra glue. Yep. Okay. I'm just gonna put that there for a moment. And let's look up some more. Alright, so studying your foe. If you have proficiency in medicine or arcana, you gain advantage on wisdom, insight, intelligence, and investigation to study the disembodied psychic. And you learn the following traits. With a plus 10, unnatural immaterial form. You are aware of the creature's damage and condition immunities. Plus 15, telepathic energy. You recognize that the creature's hypnotize and mental possession actions. And with a plus 20, you know that the creature's armor class, hit points, and strength ability score, which are 16 armor class, 117 HP, plus 7 initiative, 0 speed, but it has flight 40, so maybe best to try and knock this thing prone. Strength of 7, so a -2 modifier. 17 dexterity, 14 constitution, 18 intelligence, 16 wisdom, 18 charisma. So definitely you probably want to be aiming for that strength. Maybe the calm, but it's surprisingly tanky with a lot of these abilities. Surprisingly. Relatively low armor class though, so skills is deception 8, insight 7, perception 7. Immunities, it is immune to psychic, blinding, charming, deafened, exhaustion, frightening, and prone. Okay, there goes knocking a prone strategy. Senses, blind sight 60, passive perception 17. It can speak common and is telepathy for 30 feet. Challenge rating 10. Incorporeal movement, the psychic can move through other creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. It takes 5 damage of force damage if it ends its turn inside another object. Multi-attack, it can do 2 electroshock attacks. It can also use hypnotize if available. Electroshock is a melee or ranged, roll 8, plus 8, range 5, or range of 60 feet. Hit for 35 lightning damage, or 10d6s. And then a constitution saving throw, DC 16. Failure, the creature is dazed until the end of the psyche's next turn. Hypnotize, recharge 5 to 6. Wisdom saving throw, DC 16. Each creature for the psyche's choice is the psyche's choice of 30 foot of the emanation's origin from the psyche's. So what? Each creature from the psyche's choice within 30 feet of an emanation's originating from the psyche. So 30 feet from its center, I'm guessing. The target is incapacitated condition. That's scary. While incapacitated, the creature has the immobilized condition. Also scary. Mental possession. Intelligence saving throw DC 16. One creature the psychic can see within 5 feet. Success, the creature is immune to this. So if you succeed, you are immune to its mental possession for 24 hours. Failure, the target is possessed by the psychic, and the psychic disappears. And the target has incapacitated condition. This is control of the body. The psyche now controls the body, but the target retains awareness. The psyche can't be targeted by any attack, spell, or other effects except ones that specifically target undead. The psychic's game stats are the same except for the use of the possessed target's speed, as well as its strength, dexterity, and constitution modifiers. The possession lasts until the body drops to 0 HP, or if the psychic leaves as a bonus action. Whenever the target takes damage, It repeats the save, ending the possession on success. When the possession ends, the psychic appears in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target. The target is immune to the psychic's mental possession for 24 hours. It can also teleport to an unoccupied space within 60 feet. So if this thing can ambush a person, possess them, and just cause havoc among a group, and then if everybody decides to take down their teammate, it can then get knocked out, teleport away, and then try and ambush again. That's what I would do. The disembodied psychic begins any combat by getting into a position where it can hit as many creatures as possible with its hypnotize before attempting to mentally possess a target. If it is in a dangerous situation or it is being surrounded or cornered, it uses its teleport to move to a more advantageous position. If you harvest it, it contains rare components: aminous undead, fluids, contaminated ichor and ectoplasm, organs, a brain, dust, and undead dust. Okay, so let's try and just get a little bit of glue into these. Okay, and we're just going to hold this because I have to partially bend an arm in order for it to kind of fit into the slot. Okay, we're just going to hold that until it takes, and then we'll glue the head on. Just trying to blow on it to try and get the glue to stick. All right, so that should hold. Just a little clip there. Really? Okay. Of course, trying to get it attached, and it's kind of just slingshot off. Come on, stick, stick, stick. Please stick. Okay, I'm just going to leave that right there. We're just going to let it sit. Oh, and the little broken piece I tried to attach before, it's kind of starting to come off too. we're just going to put that down on a side, and we'll come back and check on those in a little bit. Okay, so anyway, our next model is the injector, which this guy looks pretty simple. You just attach them onto the base and you attach a backpack. Excuse me. Okay, so just got to clip off a little bit on the feet. Okay, well, let's read a little bit about the injector before we start assembly. So this little 8-foot tall creature has an array of tanks and hoses connected to 4 mechanical limbs that end in a massive syringe filled with all manners of toxins, contagions, and afflictions. Beady white eyes glare at you from its bald head. No mouth is visible, but instead it wears a hose-like connected mask and several magnifying lenses that can be slotted over its eyes for surgical precision. The first creation many apothecaries attempt is to construct a lab assistant, and the instructor is one of the primary creations. Equipped with massive syringes and tanks with multiple canisters of toxins and tinctures, the injector can mix and combine these chemicals and produce a magnitude of medicines or toxins. Individual apothecaries outfit their injectors with different chemicals for their experimentation. Although primarily as a medical assistant, the injector also doubles as a sentry or a guard for the apothecary's occult research and its hidden labs. Different injectors for different practices. Injectors are a common creation for reanimators, often constructed from stitched together body parts and medical instruments welded onto the flesh. But both of the chemists and the pathogenists also create injectors. Reanimators use injectors as an assistant to administer paralyzing, mind-dampening, and even adrenaline into their creations, hoping to keep subjects alive during their intense procedures. Pathogenists use injectors to deliver deadly viruses and poisons and diseases, and chemists have been known to use injectors for mixing alchemic formulas in case problems arise and cause unforeseen accidents. It's better you blow up an assistant than yourself. Makes sense, makes sense. So, studying them, the characters that are proficient with medicine and survival gain an advantage on wisdom, insight, and intelligence investigation checks to study the injectors, learning the following traits. They are apparently impervious to pain. You understand the creature's damage and condition immunities. A plus 15 gets you the be careful, it's volatile. You know of its unstable tank reaction. And 20, a hardy creature. You're aware of the injector's AC, hit points, and weakest ability score and saving throw. Again, sounds a little scary. Okay, just a simple glue and there in the back. And we're just going to clip off this little bit on the base. Always a little bit there on the base. Yeah, this one, super easy. Just glue the tank on and attach its feet, and we're good to go. Okay, we're just going to put you aside. You can dry, and we'll read up more about them. Okay, so the Injector is a medium construct. It is 17 armor class, 150 HP, an initiative plus 10, and speed 30. 15 strength, 23 dexterity. That's actually really high for a creature like this. 10 constitution, 16 constitution, 10 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 10 charisma. Medicine of plus 7 and perception plus 7. It is immune to poison, charmed, frightened, and being poisoned. It has dark vision of 120 feet and passive perception of 17. It understands the languages it knew in life, but it cannot speak. And is a challenge rating 11. One thing I would kind of like if they had like low-level versions, medium-level, and high-level versions of some of these creatures. Because this thing sounds like something that should be a lower level, but it isn't. Anyway. It has a multi-attack. The Injector can make 4 syringe attacks. Oh yeah, it has 4 arms. I didn't realize that. It has like 2 mechanical ones on the back, and then 2 main arms. It can make 4 syringe attacks. It can replace any number of its attacks while using a booster dose instead. So syringes, plus 10, reach 5, hit 8 for 1d4 plus 6 piercing damage. And the target is subjected to one of the following effects. Roll a d4. Reroll if an Injector has already used an effect during that turn. So it has a lethal injection, which just deals 21 poison damage. A numbing solution takes 9 cold damage and is subject to the following condition. Constitution saving throw, DC 16. Failure, the target becomes frozen. Mind dampener takes 7 psychic damage, or 2d6s. And is subjected to the following effect. Intelligence saving throw, DC 16, failure. The target is bewildered condition. And induced necrosis, the target takes 9 or 2d8 necrotic damage. And the subject has the following condition. Strength saving throw, failed. Target has the weakened condition. If you use booster dose, the animator administers a tourniquet to a friendly creature it can see within 5 feet of it that isn't a construct, choosing from the effects below. Once a creature is affected from this tourniquet, it can't gain a benefit for again until it finishes a long or short rest. You can give them an adrenaline rush. Target can use its reaction to move up to its speed without provoking an opportunity attack, or it can use 1 weapon attack with advantage. Inoculate. It can choose an acid, cold, fire, or lightning, necrotic, or poison. Target gains resistance to that chosen damage for 1 minute. It sounds really good. Restorative fluid. The target regains 35 or 10d6 hit points. If the target is already at its hit point maximum, it gains these in temporary hit points instead. Focus. The target has the Valor condition for 1 minute. Now, here is a reaction. Trigger. If the reactor takes damage, responds. The Injector reduces the damage to 0, and one of its tanks violently explodes. Injector chooses one of the effects of its syringes or booster dose. Each creature within 20 feet of it is affected as if the Injector had hit it with a syringe or a booster dose. The Injector can't use this effect until it has finished the long rest. So it can choose one of the effects. So if you're surrounded by a bunch of enemies, one of your bad things explode. You're surrounded by a bunch of allies. Good thing. Okay. I can just see these things being used as whatever. So, if the injector's allies are nearby, it uses the booster dose to bolster them before combat. Otherwise, it ruthlessly attacks with its syringe arms. It feels no pain and does not waver or retreat. If you harvest them, you gain a construct, contaminated ichor, chemical solutions, organs, eyes, heart, brain, guts, bones, skull, spine, natural weapons, needles, hair, stitches, and hide, skin, and plates. So the fact that it can both debuff and buff people, that sounds like a pretty cool effect. So yeah, so that's a interesting effect. There we go. We glued the head on. So again, we will just let that sit for a moment. All right. And our next one that we're going to be assembling. Nope, not you, not you. Definitely not you guys. These guys. We actually have two of them to assemble. I'm going to move this box out of the way. So there are two versions. You have a standing one, and you have like what looks like a running one. Okay, just as a very simple, glue your feet in place. Yeah, so we'll just attach your feet first. Okay, I'll just put you aside there. All right, so let's learn a little bit about these guys. So, about giant scythe blade arms, heavy armor. Oh, you know what these things remind me of? the undead soldiers from the Invincible show. I think I think that might be an inspiration, or at least they got similar inspiration. Let's see if the lore kind of matches up. So, charging towards you with an unbound fury of a lithe human clad in bulky suits of full plate, wielding a pair of oversized scimitars. As they draw closer with a snarl, it becomes clear that you face no mere warrior, but a monstrous abomination with metal and flesh. The inebriated figure is not wearing the armor. The plates have been riveted and bolted into their bones. Globs of weeping infected scar tissue pulsate where the body fights against the metal, fused into its muscles and sinew. It does not hold its weapons. Its forelimbs have been entirely replaced with scythe talon blades. The metal helmets are smooth and featureless, to save for a single ocular delirium lens, and exposes the creature's sickly mouth and sharpened teeth. Its breath gives off a rank chemical odor. First created by reanimator Dr. Everest Freed for the Altuberg University, Riet Automatare were designed as the ultimate shock trooper. These armored warriors feel no pain, fear, or remorse. Yes, it basically sounds exactly like the creatures from Invincible. So, constructs of metal and flesh, despite their outward appearance, Rio Automata are constructs, not undead. Their organic components operate more like machines than mere flesh, such as a composition of the Rio Automata that they fight on despite grievous injury, unflinching, even if they are disassembled. Stopping a Rio Automata necessitates mangling its body past the point of physical operation. Rio Automata are ultimately brutal and deceptive combatants, and fight without regard for their personal well-being. Created in torment, reanimators must be skillfully made by the master reanimator using the finest components. It is essentially the work begins on both a living and fully conscious individual. Typically, most apothecaries perform their work without anesthetic, instead opting to sever the vocal cords of their victims so that they do not have their screams to disturb the grim work involved. Limbs are removed and replaced, and the metal is grafted into the flesh and welded into the bones of the fully aware subject. That's terrifying. Nervous tissue is pulled from the brain and distributed from the body, giving the constructs nearly perfect proprioceptive awareness while extruding unnecessary and superficial brain tissues associated with cognitive function. The process renders the Rio Automate fully obedient but not mindless. Whew. Man, that is messed up. Okay, so we're going to take off a small trim there. Yikes, man. There we go. Just a slightly bigger drop, just to get into that joint. Okay, so we're just going to put you aside. All right, so let's read a little bit more, and then we'll start assembling our second one, and then we'll glue them all together afterwards. So studying your foe, characters proficient in Arcana or Medicine gain advantage to Wisdom, Intelligence, or Investigation checks. To study them, each successful check reveals one of the following pieces. Dispassionate Metal and Flesh. You are aware of the Reanimator's Endurance trait, as well as its damage and condition immunities. Limb weapons. You know of the Reanimator's Arm Blade and Entrapping Rend attacks. And Focus Killer, you learn of their Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma saving throws. Tactics-wise, they tend to fight with outward ferocity and aggressive attacks, while belie the cold, unfeeling calculations at the core of each soldier. In battle, they tend to launch themselves towards their foes in great leaps, impaling their targets with their rending arm blades. The rending blades flinch into the flesh and latch on like hooks, allowing the reanimators to restrain their targets. Then they use their great strength to rend apart their restrained victims. Unquestionably obey the orders of their creator, and will fight until destroyed without regard of their own bodies. However, even with general instructions, randoms tend to fight intelligently and know how to utilize the environment to their advantage, making use of their climb speed and their jumping abilities to prioritize dangerous targets. They are literally the hunters from Left 4 Dead. If you're playing with one of these and you kind of have one nearby, if you have the option to play the audio of the hunter jumping, that will terrify your friends. That will terrify your players if you do things like that. They will hate you, but it will be amazing. Yikes, man, yikes. All right, so that's the first one. Okay, we're just going to clip off all these little clippy pieces. Oh, there's a little faint B, which I'm assuming joints might have like faint lettering saying, oh, this limb goes here. In case you heard that, that was my computer, not yours. Oh. Ooh. Okay, that is too much glue. Okay, and then another. Okay. Okay, the good thing is they have little slots in the shoulders where the arms will fit in just right, so you can't accidentally put the arms in backwards. Okay, so we'll... Oops. So we're just going to attach that, hold that to make sure it sticks. And we'll just put it down. Now let's read its combat stuff. Challenge 10. Challenge rating 10. This sounds like an enemy that should be less, but man, this thing is not. So AC 18, 170 HP,
12 initiative, 50 speed, and 50 climb. 21 strength, 19 dexterity, 19 con, 13 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 11 charisma. Ouch. Athletic 9, perception 7, immune to poison, charmed, exhaustion, frightened, poisoned. Is dark vision of 120 and passive perception of 17. Instructions, understands all the languages it knew in life, but it cannot speak. It has relentless endurance. If damage reduces the Reodom to 0 hit points, it makes a constitution saving throw. 5 plus the damage taken. Unless the damage is from a critical hit, on a success, it drops to 1 HP instead, just like zombies. Oops. Tom's long jump is up to 50 feet, and its high jump is up to 30 feet, with or without a running start. So, jump. It can make 2 arm blade attacks and 1 entrapping rend. The arm blade is a +9, reach 5, hit 15, 3d6 plus 5 slashing damage. And if the target is large or small, it is pushed up to 5 feet away from it and is then has the prone condition. It's entrapping rend, +9, reach 5, 1 prone target, 15 hit, or 3d6 plus 5 piercing damage, and if the target is large or smaller, it has the grappled condition, escape DC is 17. While grappled, the target is restrained condition, and it cannot make another entrapping rend against another target. It also has a bonus action of aggressive. It can move up to its speed towards a hostile creature it can see. This movement does not provoke attacks of opportunity. That's scary. The only time I felt like a pincushion, incredible speed, and ferocity, if they weren't machine corpses enemies, I'd be impressed. If you harvest stuff from them, they can have a construct body, contaminated ichor for fluids, brain, organs, bones, skull and spine, natural weapons, blades, hair, stitching, and skin and plates. That is scary. Scary, scary, scary. Okay. So we're going to remove these two, because these two are done and should be dry by now. And our final creature, the Ripper. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So. Yeah, so there's a broken blade piece that's supposed to go in just behind the arm. And I already showed you the broken saw blade. Okay, so let's get that blade in, that broken blade in first. That's going to be the hardest part to get in. Yeah, just like that. Okay, we're just going to leave that there for a moment. And let's read about our last creature, the Ripper. This massive creature is made of mutated, stitched together body parts. The process of joining parts and intentionally mutations has rendered its former patient into a mindless beast, nearly swallowed by its own growths. Its oversized arms carry a giant whirling bone saw that spins and whirls as it lumbers forward, spraying gore and soaking its apron in blood, bone, and gray matter. They wear the blood-soaked medical apron and a mask. Okay, so there's a tiny bit of its head, like right there. And then, yeah, all these growthy parts. It has a bunch of weird sticking out arms. Yeah, so we should be able to reattach this piece here. Yeah. Okay, so that should stick. Now, please harden. There we go. So we're just going to put you down. Okay, we'll also just clip off this. Okay, so let's read some more about the Ripper. Oh, I should have. Oh, I do have water. I forgot I had water. Give me a moment. All right. So the Ripper is a creation of a truly mad apothecary, although one Odysseus created as a surgical assistant for dissections and autopsies. In truth, the Ripper's only purpose is as a butcher, carrying out a grim task of dismembering corpses and collecting severed parts to supply fresh material to create more abominations, transforming morgues into abattoirs and surgical rooms into carnal houses. Having a Ripper amongst their servants enables an apothecary to work with startling efficiency. Due to their horrific appearance and grim purpose, Rippers are seldom encountered outside of the apothecary's laboratory. Given their size and brutal skill, Rippers make ideal guardians. It likes to collect body parts. Apothecaries stitch all manners of extra arms, hands, and limbs to their rippers, which the creature uses to gather severed body parts and hold down subjects. It is a fear engine. The Ripper's tortured mind sympathetically responds when it senses the victim's fear and terror, but its twisted brain responds with adrenaline and bloodlust. When you study it, characters proficient in Arcana or Medicine gain advantage to Wisdom and Insight, Intelligence, or Investigation checks to study the Ripper, learning the following traits. Occult Science Construct. You know that it's insensitive to pain trait as well as its damage and condition immunities. Razor sharp weapons. You recognize the Ripper's whirling bone saw attack and its feed on fear and dismemberment traits. And it's plus 20, formidable but dim-witted. You learn that the Ripper's constitution, dexterity, and intelligence are saving throws. Its combat tactics. The Ripper is an unsuitable and sophisticated combatant, but it can follow its creator's orders intelligently. Unless directed otherwise, the Ripper usually begins a battle by using its gory display to terrify its victims. Then it ponderously moves towards its chosen target before lowering its saw blade down, preferring frightened targets to benefits from its feed on fear's trait. During its turn, a Ripper continues to attack with its saw blade until it misses. It has reduced its target to 0 hit points. It does not stop making attacks until the target dies. So this thing is one of those creatures that, oh, you're down? I'm going to make sure you stay down. So you have to pick up your teammates as fast as humanly possible, or else this thing will make sure they never get up again. If you harvest it, you gain an animus of a construct, fluids of contaminated ichor and chemical solutions, organs, you collect eyes, hearts, brains, and guts, bones, your skull and spine, natural weapons, blades, claws, hair, stitches, hide, skin, and plates. Yikes. That's a lot. Okay, so this one. So I have to clip off this little bit here on the arm. I forgot to get that off. Okay, a little bit of glue there. Oh, there's actually two. There's another one here, I guess, where the bottom hand connects. Okay, so this doesn't want to stick in here, so we're just going to put a little bit of glue in here. There we go. This doesn't want to almost sock it in. I almost have to make sure I push it in all the way and hold it because it wants to like spring back out. Okay, well, while we hold this, we'll try and read a little bit more because we're almost done. So it is a large construct. It has 17 hit armor class, 287 HP, plus 5 initiative and 14 speed. It has 23 strength, 11 dexterity, 23 constitution, 11 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 11 charisma. Skills, it is plus 11 athletics and plus 7 perception. Is immune to poison, psychic, charm, frightened, and poison. Is dark vision of 120 feet and passive perception of 17. Languages, it understands all the languages it knew in life, but it cannot speak. And it is a challenge 15. Okay, I'm gonna need some more glow. Okay, so I'm just gonna put you down. All right, let's continue. Dismemberment. Creatures killed by attacks made by the Ripper cannot be restored to life except by the resurrection spell or similar magic. It feeds on fear. Frightened creatures have the helpless and defenseless conditions against attacks made by the Ripper. It is insensitive to pain. Critical attack hits against the Ripper become normal hits. So this makes this thing pretty tanky. And you are helpless and defenseless as long as you are afraid of it. So it's Whirling Bone Saw, the main weapon on this thing. Plus 11, reach 10, hit 20, or 4d6s plus 6 slashing damage. The Ripper can immediately make another Whirling Bonesaw attack against the same target. This attack ignores resistances and immunities to slashing damage. And a Gory Display, recharge 5/6. Wisdom saving throw, DC 15. Each creature that can see the Ripper failing on a 14 or failure, 14 psychic damage, and the target has the frightened condition. While frightened, the target's speed becomes 0 and can't increase. And it possesses a reaction of unstoppable lurch. Trigger, a creature deals damage to the Ripper. Response, the Ripper moves up to half its speed towards that creature without provoking opportunity attacks. If the Ripper ends its movement within reach of the creature, it gains advantage on the next attack roll against that creature. Oh my god, this thing is a monster. Literally. Yikes. So it's got a bunch of knife arms on one side. My monitor, but stop going to sleep so I can see what you see. Yeah. So a whole bunch of knife arms sticking out on one side, and the saw blade in the other. And then finally, we just glue you onto your base, and we'll be done. All right. And just like that, we're done. So we'll bring back all of our current creations. Oops. So this would be kind of cool to paint, to make like all these bolts like blue lightning and then get the pink brain in there. And our two Rento or Reanimadas. I really like the detail. You can actually see like chainmail detail. Sorry, I need to move the more focus. Sorry about that. And I need to recenter my focus. Those scythe blades are also scary looking. And our big guy, our first one we rebuilt, you can see a faint line where that original break happened, but I'm assuming once I prime it and paint it, that will go away. And then our final one, our Ripper. Man. Well, just like that, we are done. So, well, thank you all for joining me today as we assemble the creatures from the Monsters of Drakkenheim Kickstarter book. This particular set, again, was the Apothicary Abominations. We had our Ripper, our two Reanimatamas. I forgot what that other creature was called. The Disembodied Psychic, the Chemstrol, and the Injector. So let's see if I can get this video up in a reasonable time, and we get our next assembly video going. And then maybe, for once, get some painting done for once. So, thank you all for watching. And if this was a nice tutorial guide for you, well, that's always good to hear too. So, thank you all for watching, and you take care now.